Chapter 7, Additional Support. So, the modified keto program with MCT butyrate lasted a little over a year. 3 cycles of about 3 to 4 months each, with 2 breaks of 2 months. After the last cycle, we started adding fiber. At first, we thought about doing a 4th round, but the fiber picked up the process perfectly, and we continued to see improvements in our son's condition. Besides, it turned out that butyrate on Amazon was constantly out of stock. So the 4th cycle never happened, and honestly, it probably wasn't needed anymore. Alex was doing well, but to be honest, I wanted to speed things up a little, and I could see the changes, but they still felt too slow. There weren't that many safe and evidence-based options left to try. When it comes to relatively well-studied substances used for autism, without all those questionable anti-parasitic or detox things, we were considering probiotics, folates, NAC, and broccoli extract, sulforaphane. Probiotics. For a long time, we stayed away from probiotics. Many parents in our support group had tried them, and almost none saw noticeable results. And it makes sense. A healthy microbiome should form gradually through diet, routine, and environment. But with autism, the initial microbiome is often limited and even aggressive. It doesn't let new bacteria settle in. I think Alex probably had a pretty aggressive immune system. By the age of 17, he'd only had 2 to 3 viral infections or flu episodes in his entire life. Even COVID-19 hit him much more mildly than the rest of our family. But when we started noticing signs that his microbiome was becoming more diverse, we decided to give probiotics a try. I read more scientific papers and chose 2 strains with the best evidence. Lactobacillus rhamnosus supports social behavior, reduces anxiety, improves connection. Bifidobacterium longum helps stabilize mood and reduce hyperexcitability. Both have positive effects on the brain. They regulate neurotransmitters, reduce inflammation, and improve overall balance. We picked probiotics that included these strains and used them in 2 short courses, since taking probiotics constantly can actually lower microbiome diversity. They're a tool for correction, not something for continuous use. Folates. People with autism spectrum disorder often have a folate deficiency in the brain. That disrupts energy metabolism and the synthesis of serotonin and dopamine. But you can't fix it by simply taking regular folic acid, because it needs to be converted into its active form. And many people on the spectrum have trouble with that conversion process. That's why recent studies focus on active forms of folate, like leucovorin, which can cross the blood-brain barrier. There's been a lot of hype around leucovorin lately, because some studies reported improvements in speech and social interaction. In reality, that effect usually comes only from a partial normalization of folate metabolism. So expecting big system-wide changes from a single supplement is pretty naive. When I started deciding whether to give Alex folates, I dug deeper into what they actually are and where they come from. And I was surprised to learn that up to 40% of folate synthesis happens right in the gut, thanks to bacteria, especially Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus. If those are lacking, folate production drops, and neuroinflammation can block their transport into the brain altogether. So I decided that both folate production and transport would likely improve naturally as we reduced inflammation and improved the microbiome. If Alex continued to progress overall, but his speech and social skills still lagged significantly, then we'd try folates. NAC, N-acetylcysteine, is an antioxidant and a regulator of neural excitation. It supports the production of glutathione, the main protector of brain cells from oxidative stress. Sulforaphane is an active compound found in sprouted broccoli. It activates internal antioxidant enzymes, supports detoxification, and lowers neuroinflammation. And anything that reduces neuroinflammation, that's our friend. We decided to keep NAC and sulforaphane as part of our ongoing support. We didn't notice any strong immediate effects from these supplements, but we kept them as background support anyway. Each supplement is just a temporary way to help balance the system. Once the microbiome starts functioning properly, it naturally restores the balance of neurotransmitters and hormones. So the need for such micromanagement simply fades away. Chapter 8, 18 Months of Change, Where We Are Now. It's been about a year and a half since we started our unexpected forced therapy. Now we can finally talk a bit about results. This isn't a final report, more like a checkpoint. Months of observations and comparisons. It's not just vibes, but it's not hard statistics either. Here's what we're seeing. Aggression, our main problem. A year ago, I would have rated Alex's aggression at 8 out of 10. Not a 10, because I know families who have it even worse. Today, that level has dropped by about 90 to 95% and is still going down. There are now gaps of more than a month between meltdowns, and when they do happen, they're far milder. The decrease started almost immediately after we began the modified keto, and then it kept going, slowly and steadily. It wasn't linear. First, the peak intensity dropped, the upper limit, that dangerous, almost crazed look, the wild energy and strength, the determination to fight to the end, the part that made us fear for our safety. We started noticing he could hold himself back even during the worst episodes. Gradually, the direction of aggression changed. He used to go at people and things in the house with the same fury. He fought us and the objects around him. Over time, aggression toward family began to ease first. Aggression toward objects stayed high for a while longer. During episodes, we found ourselves protecting the apartment more than protecting ourselves. And by then, almost everything at home had been broken anyway. Baseboards ripped off, 2 doors smashed, corners of walls chewed, not to mention furniture and dishes. He tore the curtains down every time, and this was a rental. With time, the damage to things also kept dropping, and now it's basically gone. In recent months, we've even started fixing what was broken. The episodes themselves became rarer. That, too, wasn't a straight line. Sometimes I felt like nothing was changing. Then I'd open my diary and see the frequency had dropped again. What used to happen almost daily went to once a week, and in the 3 months before the previous one, just a single incident. Now, when something sets him off, he often calms himself down. We can actually talk to him and try to soothe him. Before, that was impossible. Almost anything we did or said only made it worse. He hasn't shown aggression toward the dog for more than half a year. That used to be the first warning sign of a coming meltdown. Patrick, our new dog, is still cautious, but he no longer seems to feel in danger. Alex even tried petting him a couple of times. For about the 3 weeks leading up to recording the video, we've basically been holding our breath. We've probably never seen him like this. Aggression is at 0. Very calm, almost no sharp movements or stereotyped sounds. Overall in a great positive mood. Very few visible signs of agitation or self-harm. Almost no slapping himself, barely any hand biting. With aggression so low, we've started rebuilding the emotional bond we lost long ago. And we can see it. He loves us. I still remember how my wife and I were constantly covered in bruises and bite marks in all stages of healing. The scars on our bodies are fading along with the ones on our hearts. These are improving at almost the same pace. His wrists used to be covered in poorly healing scars from constant biting. More than once, he nearly broke the skin over veins. He often hit his head or banged it on the walls. Today, he almost never bites himself and rarely hits himself. I thought those awful bumps would be with us forever, but even they've nearly healed. At the start, it was constant mood swings, tension, sad eyes, tears for no reason, irritability from morning till night. Even brief moments of joy could flip instantly to anger or frustration. Now his emotional state is far more stable with barely any sharp swings. The ups and downs are much softer and last longer. His mood is mostly good or neutral. He smiles often, he's calmer and more relaxed. Anxiety, at least outwardly, seems to have disappeared completely, as far as you can tell, with a nonverbal child. He's still fully nonverbal. I can hear that there's some system to his sounds now, like he's trying to say something. It almost hints at words. But his receptive language, huge jump forward. The number of words he understands has increased several times over. He's begun understanding 2 to 4 word sentences. He's picking up on intonation, from very simple cues to getting when we're playing or joking. I remember how when he was little, we could scold him for something and he'd just stand there laughing. He understands degrees now, like clap harder or let's walk faster. Overall, he has a positive attitude toward speech. He's no longer irritated by the sound of a voice. He used to hit when someone addressed him. Something happened last week that really moved me. I had to explain some not-so-simple rules, how not to behave in the pool, and what struck me, he looked at my face and actually listened. He clearly didn't get everything I said, but he absolutely caught the general meaning. And the point is, for the first time in many years, he looked at me and listened. Usually he doesn't look, and often doesn't even stop when we speak to him, as if ignoring us completely. For me, this was a dialogue. He used to repeat a single sound from a cartoon for hours. He still stims with the tablet, but now he listens to long dialogues and phrases. I can see him rewatching the same cartoons he's watched for years, but now in bigger chunks, like he's finally starting to understand what they're saying. That's my guess. So let's cross it off. The official protocol. He listens to musical fragments much more. In general, he started to like music. We're thrilled, and really hoping this is only the start of our language journey. Sudden sharp movements with his hands or head, plus grimacing, almost gone. He used to constantly make faces. Now his face is calm, with almost no grimaces, and his body is much more relaxed. His facial expressions are still limited, but slowly gaining variety. Fine motor skills have improved a lot. He unexpectedly got pretty deft at snapping Lego pieces into place. He still doesn't understand even simple assembly diagrams for building sets. He doesn't see a plan as a plan. He runs better. Still a bit odd, with an unusual arm swing, but faster and more confident. I'm starting to see the first signs of mirroring adults, very faint, but there. I consider this the critical skill for physical and social development. I even caught him a couple of times exploring himself in the mirror. Thanks to the direct effect of keto, his weight dropped quickly, from almost 110 kilograms to about 70, which is normal for his age and height. His weight is stable now. I get that some changes can be chalked up to weight loss, like him being more active and flexible. About 6 months ago, he unexpectedly started swimming. Dog paddling, sure. But he can stay in deep water for 40 minutes pretty calmly. In the last few lessons, he even surprised the coach. She said he started putting in real effort to swim. Not for long, enough for a couple of pool lengths, but his body's horizontal in the water. For him, that's unusual, to apply that kind of sustained effort without a reward. New daily living skills. He changes clothes by himself and even enjoys it. He chooses his own t-shirts, underwear, even bedding. He washes his hands, wipes the table, takes dishes to the sink. He used an umbrella properly for the first time. Before, he'd just let it go and keep walking. He's learned to wait sometimes. Unexpectedly, he showed off this new skill the other day. We arrived at a session and the bathroom was occupied. This was always hard. He'd start pacing and getting nervous until he could go in. We couldn't say wait. That was a massive trigger. I was shocked. He just sat on a chair and waited for it to free up. Sensory. His sensory processing has improved and calmed down across the board. The endless search for the right underwear, clothes, and heavy blankets finally eased up. Since around age 10, he barely tolerated touch. It made him angry and stressed. Now he lets us hug him calmly. He'll even hug if you ask. We can see it's still not super pleasant, so we try not to overdo it. He used to barely react to bad smells. He also used to touch his bottom. Now he shows us when the sheets need changing and changes his underwear when it's dirty. He chooses one of 2 deodorants himself. Before, whatever we put on him was fine. Now he might go pick another t-shirt and put it on. Not always the right choice, but still. He understands temperature now. He knows when it's cold or hot, changes clothes by himself, opens and closes windows. He even asks to turn off the radiator. His selective light sensitivity has completely disappeared. He used to want to hide in the dark, especially on hard days, under the bed with the curtains closed. Now, if it feels a bit dark, he turns the light on. He no longer seeks very loud or weird sounds. He tolerates haircuts and shaving well, barely fidgets. More than that, he enjoys the clean feeling after. He touches his shaved face like he's proud of it. Stereotyped and repetitive behavior. This is the hardest for me to assess. Most old stims have disappeared, and the ones that remain keep changing in character. I'll probably record a separate video about social interaction gains and stereotypes. There are lots of small wins, and they need a bit of systematizing and analysis. Food. Diet variety is still not great. But unexpectedly, over the last 2 months, he almost completely stopped eating non-food items. No more chalk, paraffin, modeling clay, or salt. I generally link this to sensory changes. Autistic kids often mix up sensations. Sugar and simple carbs are off limits and probably will be for a while, but with a little sister around, there's always a chance to accidentally find something sweet. 6 months ago, a sweet slip-up would send him into high excitement, or even trigger aggression. In the past month, I see no reaction at all to sweets. I connect that to active bacterial work and a more balanced excitation inhibition system. His GI issues have completely disappeared. Diarrhea has basically stopped. Stool consistency is normal. We're seeing something that used to be rare: regular digestion, including gas. I can see his microbiome is still forming, and it seems to be going faster now because the leftover signs of neuroinflammation keep fading. Of course, we want to see more higher cognitive functions: speech, sense of time and events, more independence. We dream of a proper pointing gesture. It would make life so much easier for him and for us. But these tiny, crucial breakthroughs, we're not just happy, we're inspired. For years, we hunted for any change in him. There was very little, almost none. He was like an insect in amber, the body growing older, the brain standing still. Especially after age 10, it felt like we regressed on most fronts. Now we see changes every day. Tiny ones, sometimes almost invisible, but they add up. The most interesting changes have come in recent months. We're seeing hints of curiosity. For example, he tapped on a wall and then on wood next to it, comparing the sounds. A few days later, he unexpectedly called Mom by tapping on a glass door. Usually, he always had to open the door and physically touch one of us. We're seeing improvements everywhere: sensory, emotions, reactions to touch and sound. Some things move faster, some slower. But you can feel his body and nervous system starting to work more in sync. I can literally see him becoming more whole. Of course, we'd love more objective measures like a microbiome analysis from before therapy and now, trends in inflammation markers or hormones, something more measurable. I know some people might look at him and say, that's just a teenager with severe autism. But now looking at him, I see possibilities for the first time. We've followed a narrow path, noting every little thing: mood, movement, reactions. No guarantees, no ready-made recipes, just scattered studies, intuition, and logic. Recently, I saw the results of a clinical study I've followed for a while. I didn't expect effects so long-lasting and deep, and now I'm more confident than ever we're on the right path. It's a 2023 study on fecal microbiota transplantation, FMT, in children with autism. The results blew me away. After FMT, there were significant durable improvements that continued even 2 years after therapy. In some children, autistic traits decreased so much that their diagnosis shifted from severe to mild, and a few even lost the formal diagnosis because their symptoms no longer met the criteria. The essence of FMT is that researchers used a course of antibiotics to effectively reset the kid's aggressive native flora, then repopulated it with healthy donor microbiota. What's interesting is that after 2 years, the child's microbiome was equally distant from both the donors and their original one. What this shows me: even by changing only the microbiome, you can set up conditions for tectonic long-term shifts in the body, changes that gradually affect most autism symptoms. We personally aren't doing anything that radical. No washing out the microbiome with antibiotics. Our path is similar in spirit but far gentler, gradually shifting and enriching our own microbiota, lowering inflammation and helping the body restore balance more naturally. There are still many questions about FMT, especially around safety and long-term consequences. There's no guarantee the FDA will ever officially recognize FMT for autism. But even if it doesn't, we're walking a similar road and we can see it working. That gives us confidence. Subscribe to stay with us on this path. Every month brings new, unexpected changes. Share our story if you can. Families facing severe autism often feel alone, and your share might give someone hope they haven't felt in years.